remember earlier when we were walking and talking, and we were talking about like how we don't argue in our marriage.
Yeah.
And we were talking about why we don't do that because of the standard we have for ourselves and all of this stuff. Because I know we've seen people posting stuff on our page and in our content talking about wanting to grow to that place, and some people not understanding how we got to it and all of those different things.
Yeah.
So I figured kind of revisiting that a little bit might serve some value.
Okay.
So kind of warming things up a little bit. What does it mean to you, like in your own words, like to have standards?
For me, it just means having a particular way of being that I choose to live by.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think it needs to be that fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Being mindful of how you carry yourself, having a very clear self-identity.
How I carry myself, how I think, how I act with just myself, how I act with you, with anybody I'm around, like the things I expose myself to, like just having standards in everything concerning myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like purposeful too.
Yeah, for sure.
Like purposeful reasons as to why you carry yourself the way that you do, the things that you allow, the things that you don't allow, how you treat yourself, how you treat other people, all of those things.
Right.
Why is it that you feel that most people don't have any?
Maybe some people just don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like they don't think about what they will and will not tolerate for themselves and for other people. So it might not be a thought process. But for me, it's like I'm constantly thinking about like how I'm being.
Yeah.
Because it matters to me. Like how I show up in the world really matters to me. And I'm not just hold myself to a certain standard that I'm just not going to embarrass myself in any type of way or be able to have anyone look at me a certain type of way based on how I choose to show up into the world. Like, does it make sense?
Absolutely.
Like people are going to perceive you however they want to, but for me, it's more about how I perceive myself and how other people perceive that. That's fine. You know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And that takes a lot of growth and confidence too.
Yeah.
To be that okay with being all of what you are, even when some people may not agree with it or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't plan on living my life based on what people agree with.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's just what that is. Like, I feel like in my younger years, I felt that way. And it's like, this version of Adoria right now, I could care less. I could care less because in all honesty, most people don't know what they're living for.
Yeah.
They just show up and do the same things over and over again. And they don't think about what they're doing. Like me constantly thinking about how I'm showing up in the world and the ways that I want to, I don't know, I guess the ways I want to contribute to the world too, you know? And that means me setting a standard for myself. So
the reason why, I actually did a little bit of research on it and I'm going to share with you what I found because I think it'll add a lot of value to it. But I say that because having standards is hard. And a lot of people, for one, don't have them at all. But it's also really hard to have and to maintain because it's like once you really get clear on what you want your standards to be and holding yourself to those things, you really have to like go there with your reasoning.
Okay.
And that might not always make sense to people. Matter of fact, more than likely it won't make sense to most people because they don't see the world the way that you do. And they also don't know what your vision is, what your values are. Or what you're aiming toward, because a lot of the times those standards have to be guided by something.
Absolutely.
But here's what I got when I was doing a little bit of research on this. It says that having standards means setting clear expectations for how you want to live, how you expect to be treated, and how you show up for others. It's about creating boundaries, holding yourself accountable, and not settling for less than what aligns with your values. Standards define the quality of relationships and the effort you put into your growth and the kind of energy you allow into your life and your relationships, and then it ensures mutual respect and alignment in values. And so just to give context, I was looking at like standards for both yourself and in the context of having meaningful relationships.
Okay.
And so to add to that, It says, before you can have strong intentional standards for yourself and your relationship, several foundational elements need to be in place. And here's what they are: self-awareness, clarity in your values, confidence in your worth, clear vision for yourself and your relationship, boundaries, emotional maturity, or intelligence, as we like to say these days, a willingness to be uncomfortable, accountability, a growth mindset, a strong sense of purpose. And all of these are basically foundational elements of what you have to have first before you can actually have strong standards. And an emphasis on having strong, clearly defined standards, because not everybody's is the same.
Yeah.
And I think what's so dope about what our relationship is and what we've built it into is the fact that we've been raising our standards for so long. Even when we got into, not even our relationship, but just getting cool in general, I was attracted to you because of your standard. You know what I mean? And because I was coming from a place to where I felt like I had either compromised my own or lost track of myself, really just as a whole. And so meeting somebody like you really gave me the desire to get all of that back in alignment, because again, I had lost a lot of that, or it had not been at the level to where I felt like I needed it to be before for who I wanted to become. And I felt like that really set the tone for a lot of what our relationship became, because even though our standards and how we carry ourselves now and how we choose to show up in the world is so big now, back then they were big in comparison to what we had been exposed to before.
Of course.
And so I wanted to kind of bring it up because I wanted to go back thinking about like how our relationship started a little bit, how we grew to have such strong standards and values for ourselves, and how they carried over into our relationship. Because it's one thing for us to say that, we don't argue in our marriage, but we can disagree and still love each other, understand one another, and all of those things. But all of that came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking about that, and I'm like, man, it's really obvious to me that a lot of people don't have that in themselves, especially being somebody who at one point didn't have them at the level that I felt like I should have had them.
Okay.
Especially being a teen, like who?
Of course.
Yeah. Lost. Like
we met at 18, so understandably so.
There's no reason that I'm about to have any clear or strong standards or whatever. Sure. I just, truth be told, like I just didn't really like me at the time. So I was doing a whole bunch of stuff, didn't have values, didn't have standards. Honestly, probably never even heard of the word other than the Army standard.
Right.
You know what I mean? But none personal to me.
Yeah.
And so when we started to progress in our relationship, you put me in a mindset to where I had to start like raising my own, because like we said before, there was things that you wouldn't tolerate.
Right.
There was a way that you were okay with being that was above my own, and you had your reasonings behind those things. And so the things that I was willing to change about myself or compromise on and all of those things, it was because I didn't feel a need to hold on to them for who I was trying to become. And I want to kind of set the stage there, because I feel like a lot of the times people are in these relationships, be it their marriages or whatever the case may be, and they're in conflict because there was so much self-work that wasn't done and standards set internally that was able to guide them through who they wanted to become for themselves, and then be able to bring that person into the relationship and then grow into something together to where they're able to be at a point inside of their relationship to where arguing is not something that's common or natural, because of the standard that you've set for yourself, not just the relationship, but for yourself and how you decide to show up for people that you say you care about, that you say that you love, and refusing to treat people a certain type of way because of how you see you. So said a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I know. But dialing all of that back, can you see like how that plays such a huge role in people's relationships and how they connect with one another, and not being able to have a space where they just argue and are in conflict and okay talking to each other any type of way, and how standards contribute to that?
Well, I agree. So I don't I personally don't understand when people argue and are disrespectful when it comes to like how you communicate with someone you love, period. Whether it be in a marriage, whether it be in a friendship, anything like that. I don't understand that. Because I feel like for myself, I would look at myself sideways and I would have to really do some self-reflecting on like, okay, if I say I love someone to this capacity, I care about them, I want to be there for them, why am I treating them or why am I talking to them in a way that is belittling, demeaning, all of that stuff, like or hurtful, you know, because usually when it gets to that level, sometimes it can be very hurtful. So like I need to look at myself and say, hey, well, why am I communicating with them in this type of way? And that's something I need to fix about me.
Yeah.
And if that person is doing it to someone else, they need to, or to me or whatever, they need to figure out why they're doing it too. Because in my opinion, I've been in some fallouts with people. I really have. I've fallen out with friends, but I personally have never gotten to the point of calling somebody out of their name or being disrespectful or bad mouthing anybody like that to try to hurt them. It's just not in my character. It's never been. So I can't process the reasons why people go there, I guess you can say.
Absolutely.
It's just one of those things that have never been in me, especially if I say I love you.
Right.
I forgot what I was going to go. I was going to go somewhere with that. Standards. So I have a standard for myself when I'm communicating with people and it may seem like it's going to go left. It's like, okay, Adoria, how do you want to be in this moment? Are you trying to understand where they're coming from? Are you trying to be right? Are you trying to prove them wrong? Like what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You know, does that make sense? So I think I'm always gonna look back at myself instead of the other person. And that's just in any scenario. It's like, okay, well, what did I do wrong here? You know what I'm saying?
Because
even
all
if
you
it's
control
not
is you.
Yeah, even if it's not something like super big, it's like, okay, Adoria, this, even in the middle of a conversation, like this is going left. What in this moment can I change around to fix this that doesn't require me to be disrespectful, to argue? Because at the end of the day, we should be looking for understanding, not who's right or who's wrong in this scenario, whatever the scenario is or whatever. But yeah, for me, I just have a certain type of way I want to be with people. And no matter how heated somebody else gets, I don't care. I'm not gonna be swayed because I'm gonna do and be who Adoria says she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Period.
I love that because what we have has really taught me that. Like realizing that you can have a standard for yourself that other people don't even have to understand or not even agree with or whatever the case may be, but you get to dictate how you decide to show up in certain moments.
Absolutely.
And so it's like when I hear people talk about, you know, them arguing or yelling at each other and things like that, I really have a hard time processing that because I can't imagine a world where I would get to a place to where I'm finna yell at you and try to scream a point to you and try to force you to see something the way that I do, or try to force you to see that you're wrong and that I'm right, or whatever the case may be, regardless of what the subject is. I can't see me being able to love myself and respect myself and value myself while belittling you. That doesn't make sense to me. So I get people have, you know, high emotions, whatever the case may be. And that ain't even to throw no shade or look at people as being anything other than human. It's just for me and my standard, I cannot see myself doing that to somebody that I love. Not only my wife, not only you, I don't do that to friends. I'll give some tough love. I'll pop off if I need to. But if I'm doing that, you're going to know that it's coming from a place of love. And whatever I'm saying is going to be to encourage you to be able to try to open your mind to see a different perspective, to try to protect you from something. It's going to come from a place of love and understanding or whatever the case may be. But in no shape, form, or fashion am I about to sit over here and just scream and yell at somebody trying to force them to see the world the way that I do or to try to make my point. Because long before it would even get there, I'm wise enough to where I could just bail out and be like, hey, I know we ain't getting nowhere with this. And now this is becoming like a waste of time.
Yeah.
And one or two things is happening. Either I'm not communicating the message well, or I can look at you and see that maybe there's some understanding that you don't have. And this might not be the best time to try to be able to give you that understanding. Or I can read the energies and be like, you know what? Something is not right. Like this atmosphere ain't right for whatever the direction is flowing with this conversation, and just be like, all right, you know what? Maybe we'll try this another way. But like, there's no universe where I see myself trying that hard to scream at somebody to make them get my point. And so I can't say that I've always been like that, of course, by no chance. But I feel like because I haven't been like that for so long, especially inside of our relationship, it's given me a whole new outlook on seeing those types of interactions. And it don't make sense to me. Like I cannot see me liking me after doing something like that. And that's just something that I couldn't personally tolerate within myself. Not even about the relationship or whatever the situation is. I couldn't see me liking me after that.
Right.
And how would I expect you to like me after something like that?
Period. I know somebody asked me in a comment, because we actually just posted a reel with the thumbnail, and it said not every disagreement is a problem. And one of the girls in there in the comments was asking, she was like, how did y'all get to this point? Like, were y'all always this way, or did y'all grow into this? And like, something I was telling her is, like, you grow to be this type of way with someone. Like, you have to be caring and understanding and intentional about the person that you're with to even get to this point. You got to care enough to get to this point. Like, our biggest goal with each other was always understanding. It didn't matter whether we agreed, we disagreed, whatever, or our upbringing. It didn't matter. It's just, I want to understand you better. I want to understand why you think this way, why you feel this way. Why does this bother you? Like, why does me saying this thing bother you? Like, but I think we talked about this in the last episode, like me saying the words or calling you stupid, like, oh, you stupid. That bothered you. I wanted to know why. I didn't understand, but I wanted to know why. So it's just, if everyone got to a place of, hey, I just want to understand you, I love you, and I want to understand where you're coming from, and it's not about being right and wrong, I think a lot of conversations will flow a lot better. But it's more so of a fighting match. Like, we trying to wrestle on your way should be wrong and my way should be right, or my upbringing was worse, and you, like, I'm this way because my mom and daddy and them, like, you know, oh, so my upbringing was way worse than yours, so this is why I am the way it don't matter. Let's just try to understand each other. Let me understand why you think and feel the way that you do. And let me care enough about you to sit here and just be understanding, be empathetic. That's it.
To add to that, though, let me tell you my one problem with that.
Okay.
Well, for one, that part is not a problem. That part is not a problem. The problem I have with a lot of people, though, sometimes just from observation, is that even when you have those moments where you're just looking to understand and you want somebody to be able to have a space to articulate themselves and explain those things, sometimes people can are looking for validation, and they're looking for all of their feelings and things like that to be justified and all of those things, which I understand the humanness of it. But it's like, when you have those beliefs that are harming you more than they're helping you, and you have somebody, you know, who bring those things to you and stuff like that, and you can tell that they're looking for you to make it mean to you what it means to them. And I see that so often, and it's so defeating. And I wanted to be able to address that before we even get too far into it, because it's such a common response. It's like, you know how we talk about like trauma bonding. It's like when people get to spilling out like, oh, you know what, this is what happened to me, and oh, it happened to you, so you understand, and stuff like that. And they look for it to be a reason for them to have the same continued behavior. And that's not the case. So, in putting this on me, when I had the whole thing with like you saying stupid because I was holding on to this thing, you know, from my childhood about being diagnosed with a learning disability and all of this crap or whatever. And you was like, I understand where you're coming from, but like, look at you now.
Right.
Like none of that crap has held you back. Like you excelling, like, you know, you on your way to, you know, going to the promotion board, ranking up. Look at all these soldiers you leading and whatnot. I'm like, so like, do you really want to hold on to this belief that you've proven wrong countless times since then? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why continue to hold on to this thing that's not serving you any purpose at all when you know it not to be true?
Yeah. And even to that particular point is me being understanding enough to talk you through that though.
Yeah.
Me being empathetic, like, okay, I understand. Like, you don't like when I say this. I understand. Like, let's talk about why you don't like this. Like, let's dive into that. Let me care enough to go into your world, to see it from your perspective without me being offended by you being offended by what I said.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So even that takes like emotional intelligence for me to go with you where you are and try to bring you out. Because it's like you said, like you've proven all of this wrong. Like, and knowing the context of the conversation. Like I'm saying, you stupid because you're funny. Like you're hilarious. I say it all the time because you're hilarious all the time. Like I don't know what you're doing. But yeah, like again, it still goes back to understanding. Me being emotionally intelligent enough to know that, okay, this really bothers you. Me saying this triggers you in a certain way. Okay, let's talk about this thing and talk through it and why it bothers you so much. So
and then in that, right, it's a willingness to get uncomfortable. And when we were talking about standards, having clarity and a clear vision for yourself, your relationship, where you want to go, all of those things. So, and you having standards and me being in a space where I'm trying to build some, and I say I'm trying to get better, but you see me holding on to this thing that doesn't make me better, while understanding that I'm trying to work on becoming better.
Yes.
So now it's like, all right, it's being somebody who cares and understands and all of these different things. Which more do you bend and flex to? Do I invite any uncomfortable conversations from a place of love and understanding and whatnot? Because I want to be able to be here to understand you and help guide you out of this thing. Yeah. Just by asking questions, because this vision over here that you've given me, this ideal self that you know that you're trying to become, I think for you, based off of what I've told you, is bigger than the other stuff.
Yes.
It's bigger than the limiting belief and all of those things.
Absolutely.
So it's like, all right, let me bring this to your attention out of love, so that way you can take that clarity over here to this thing that you told me matters more. Which brings up another point of having standards, accountability.
Yes.
Are you willing to receive that accountability for the thing that you said you wanted? This thing that I said I wanted. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's all of those levels and those different attributes that come together that create a conversation that can be had around these uncomfortable things to be able to grow through them, because growth in and of itself is a part of being able to have standards as well. Yeah. And so just seeing how all of that stuff works and how it plays in a role, because when you love somebody, when you care for somebody, when you have true standards for yourself and you're building them within your relationship, and you know what clarity looks like in the direction of where you're trying to grow together, it gives you so many different resources to combat the arguments. I'm bringing this to your attention because I see where this might be trying to throw us off from where we're trying to go together. You told me the person that you want to be, and now something is coming into your life, or you have a way of thinking that I see will keep you from being that. And so I have to be that force of accountability to get that off you. You're using all of these resources. And so it's crazy. Like when I think about why we don't argue, it's because we know each other. We've built the connection so strong that we know how to pull from our resources to keep us in alignment to where there's no reason to argue. Like I don't have to, because I know that you love me. I know that you care about me. I know that you're going to be just as protective of our vision as I am. Absolutely. I know that you're not going to do anything that's going to throw me off from becoming my ideal self, from being the husband that you need. All of those things are resources that we get to pull from to keep each other in check. Mm-hmm. And us having that understanding makes it so much easier. So there's no need to argue because we're walking in the same direction together.
Absolutely.
And like, that's why so many general and like basic conversations need to be had.
Yeah.
You know, and why you can't fake those things. Mm-hmm. But like, that is the unspoken groundwork behind why we don't do that.
Yeah.
Because there's really no need, because we're on each other's team.
Absolutely.
And man,
and always have a very, 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 very long track record of being on each other's team and building that trust with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which creates opportunity, because it's like when you look at trust in and of itself, something has to happen. Mm-hmm. Like you have to be given a ball and shown that you can be able to run that thing and not fumble it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you have to be able to have those opportunities to where you can continue to reinforce it and build it up. And we've done that with each other for years.
Yes.
And so it's like when I see people, you know, asking us, you know, like why we don't do this and how do we get to that space? Man, intentionality is everything.
Yeah.
It is everything. And you've been, man, what's the word? Instrumental. For real. Like in my growth and me becoming so much of who I am today.
Yeah.
And I've, you know, done my best to do the same and be the same for you.
Of course you have. Yes.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, like now, like thinking about it, it just makes that much more sense to me. Mm-hmm. I love that for us.
Me too. Yeah, I'm definitely glad we don't argue. Like it seems exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah. From watching like other people do that, I'm like, I can't. And how can you argue and say disrespectful things and hurtful things and still try to build a productive, healthy relationship? Like it doesn't make sense in my brain.
And you know what, man? Being willing to challenge what people call normal.
Mm-hmm. That part.
I don't like that, man. Like I don't like that people can hear these negative ideals of what's considered to be normal in a marriage or a relationship. And I'm like, it's only normal if you allow it to be yours, or if your goal is to be normal.
Right.
I'm like, bro, like in our marriage, I've never aimed for normal. Normal and typical have never been the goal.
Average, nah.
Yeah, normal, typical, common, average. None of that crap has ever been the goal.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Not ever.
Clearly not ever.
Yeah. And so it's like, bro, it might be common for most people or whatever, but no. Just because it's like that for most don't mean that it got to be like that for you.
Exactly.
And I know people talk about, you know, how did I see it actually? Like how to productively fight in a marriage or something like that. Or have productive arguments or whatever the case. Call it whatever you want to. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is I'd rather just not argue at all. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather have a space to where we can disagree and still be able to love each other, come together, be able to either further solidify belief, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't have to accept whatever people call normal inside of our relationship when our goal ain't to be normal.
Yeah. And then knowing like, disagreements don't have to be up for debate. Mm-hmm. Like you can think what you think and feel how you feel and us just agree to disagree. Like I don't have to agree with you as long as it's not detrimental to our relationship. Like you're free to believe whatever you want to believe. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I think too many people think that like just because we disagree on our favorite colors, like, oh my God, like let me try to convince you that you need to love purple more than you love whatever color your favorite color is right now. I really don't care.
Of course.
But you know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? It's like people take those opportunities to try to convert someone instead of saying like, I just want to understand. Like it doesn't matter whether we agree or disagree. It's just, can we have a productive, healthy conversation even though we disagree.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what matters most.
And I've seen, you know, a lot of the times where people have these moments where it's like they're trying to, how we said before, like make something mean something to somebody else. And like, boss, believe it or not, like you don't, even inside of your marriage and your relationships, there can be disagreements. There can be differences in opinions. There can be things that like might deeply mean something to your partner, your spouse, or whatever the case may be, and then not have the same meaning to you. And things can still go extremely well.
I mean, it does for us.
Yes, like, and you could still be respectful and honor that and care, and it not have to be all of these things.
Yeah, because I think it's like nonsense to think that we should agree on every single thing. I'm like, bro, like we have two different upbringings, we're two different genders, like we see the world differently. Like it's so many things, like we're just different. So it would be crazy to think we have to agree on everything in order for us to function in the world, when mostly it's our opposites that have helped us grow in the ways that we've needed to.
Yes.
It has helped us get to the point that we are right now. It's the fact that we don't agree on everything that's helped us grow. That's helped us get to 11 years on Friday of marriage.
Because those are the things that allow us to be able to challenge our own thinking, our own ideas, and say, you know what? Is there a better way to approach this thing? Have I been thinking about this thing in a way that doesn't actually benefit myself or our relationship or where we're going? Like it's those differences in experiences and ideas and beliefs and different things like that that allow us to just talk through it.
Yes.
And to be able to build something together, because we might have a conversation and realize that both of our thinking might be off a little bit, but the combined effort of our perspectives might allow us to create something completely new that we can try out together, and that become our new standard.
Yes.
Bringing in different elements of our experiences in the way that we think. And like that is a huge opportunity, because that creates something nobody else can have. Like we just created another unique approach to seeing the world that exists only between us. Because the only way we even got to that space was because we brought different elements of ourselves to a topic or a way of thinking and then created our own. And like, shoot, we've done that in just about everything. Our fitness, our marriage, about the way we pursue goals, the way that we think about ourselves in the world, the way we think about our interactions with other people, and so on.
Parent.
All of that stuff.
Yeah,
like it's really just been us creating our own ideals over the years and like meshing them based off of who we are right now, whatever our standards are right now, and whatever we're moving and growing toward, and just constantly reevaluating those things, knowing that our teamwork and our partnership is the priority, and that we're ultimately moving in a direction to where we want to be the best that we can be individually and together, while in pursuit of whatever these shared goals and individual goals that we have together. Like we want to see both of each other win personally and together. And we would never do anything to each other to throw us off of that.
Right.
Like I love you loving you. Right. And I know you love me loving me.
Yeah.
Because that allows us to be the best of who we are for each other. So it's like how they say, you know, don't ever pour from an empty cup. We're always trying to fill each other up individually. And I'm also trying to do the same thing, you know, helping you do the same as you do that for me.
Yes.
All of these different things. And it's just caring.
Yeah.
It's just caring. Like, and we don't have space to be out here trying to break each other down when there's so much on the line and there's so much to gain from us being together. So this is why standards matter. Standards matter for yourself. And why we don't argue. And why we can be able to have productive conversations, not agree on everything, but still walk away feeling loved, even if not understood, knowing that both of us care, and understanding that we don't have to always understand. And still treat each other well. Yeah. So it's like taking a step back, man, and just really just like fucking breathing. Like just breathe and realize like who am I right now? Who am I talking to? Like, what do we have? Is it that deep?
Is it that deep?
Is it even that deep?
And take it a step further. What's even the goal of the conversation?
What is the goal?
Like, are we trying to solve a problem, or are we just arguing over whose favorite color is better? Like, I know it sounds dumb, but like sometimes it is really like that dumb. Like, are we arguing over something that actually matters, and we need to come to a mutual ground so we can solve the problem, or are we just arguing about something that's just irrelevant? So understand, okay, so if we're trying to solve a problem together, then we need to be on each other's team, because it's both of our problems. So we need to sit down, take a breath, and figure out what we need to do. And if it's irrelevant, just let it fly.
Yeah.
Just let it fly.
I know we don't do scenarios and whatnot, but I think it's like a interesting thing to even think about. I ain't even gonna name it.
Okay.
I saw randomly on the internet this chick, she had posted talking about having difficulty with her husband having friends of the opposite sex and stuff like that or whatever.
Okay.
And, basically was just opening up the door for everybody to give their feedback on it. And so my first knee-jerk reaction in seeing that was like, all right, if this is a problem, one thing I know right out the gate, you clearly have a negative past with similar experiences. That much I already know.
Right.
The fact that you posted it shows me that you already have some insecurities and know how you feel about it. Just knowing that part right there, whatever anybody else says doesn't even matter. And then if I just had to imagine, being on the opposite side of that, being a male, being like, hey, you know what? Like, I don't see it as being that important. These friends may not mean as much to me, like they're not in the way. All of these things that just come from insecurity, conflicts, whatever, previous experiences, anything like that. But it's like, I sometimes don't get why other people will try to enforce other people's standards inside of their own relationship rather than mutually coming together, talking to their spouse, and then establishing their own. Because for sure, there's a reason why you feel the way you do. There's a reason why the person that you're with feel the way that they do.
Right.
9 times out of 10, this ain't brand new.
Right.
Some accepted behavior has been going on there and different things like that. So I think about these types of questions and things like that people deal with when it comes to having disagreements or arguments or whatever the case may be. When somebody's saying that it's not that serious and this person's saying that it is that serious, when ultimately the only thing that matters is the two people inside of the relationship feeling loved, cared for, respected, and whatever the case may be. And then at least allowing themselves to have enough time to be able to build up that trust and that security and all of those things, because a lot of that stuff was probably there long before now. And it might take some rebuilding of that trust in order for that to be okay or whatever the case may be. But only the two people inside of it can establish that.
Absolutely. Not random people on the internet.
Only the two, because y'all the only two in a relationship.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But even in understanding that, it's like we could still have a conversation like that, care for one another, even not understand it completely, and still treat each other with respect. So I'm thinking about that because I know those are realistic challenges that people do deal with, and because it's something that I recently saw. How would you approach a situation like that?
Whether I care if you have like female friends or not?
Oh, you know what? Don't use us.
Yeah, because I'm like, what do you mean?
Don't
like,
use us.
Most of your friends are female, so I don't.
Don't do that. Yeah, that don't apply to us.
Right. Like,
Well, see, which
you
is
got
why it gets
you got
difficult.
like girlfriends and I got guy friends. Like that's like we have friends like that. So that's never
It
like
don't
us
work.
having friends of the opposite sex has never been a problem. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, where do you
Don't
go
work.
from that? And you know, for me, I don't like doing hypothetical stuff because I haven't experienced it. So I can only tell you what we've been through.
Yeah.
But what we've been through is I trust you enough to be around other women. It does not bother me. Just like you trust me to be around other men, and it doesn't bother you.
But that's the thing too, you know.
And first of all, ain't no mug finna come up to me and talk to me sideways anyway, because I just don't carry myself in a way where you feel like you can approach me, and that's just honest. So
Let's come back to that individual standard.
I have a stand like you.
Yeah.
Don't play by me. I have a husband. You know I have a husband.
Right.
Like you know how I walk and talk like I have a husband. Absolutely.
And see, and that's goddamn accountability, man.
That's what it is.
It's like, what is the standard for yourself?
Absolutely.
Like, do you create an environment to where you are making your spouse feel confident in who you are and what y'all have? Historically, have you proven that? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What type of self-work are you guys doing on yourselves individually to where you're able to overcome these insecurities if that's all that they are? So it all comes back down to the individual.
Exactly.
Because you can't make nobody feel a particular type of way or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. So it's important for the two people in whatever the relationship scenario is online for them to come together and have a real conversation. And it may be uncomfortable as to why the woman feels the way she does and the man feels the way that he does. It's you got to talk about it. Like, what in your past makes you feel insecure or whatever about your man being around other women? Has he done something? If he's done something, have y'all worked on that? Like, and get a third party involved. Get a therapist involved if you need to. Like, if it's really that serious, get somebody else involved. Like, and y'all really want to work on it? Because I mean, I don't see a problem with it because that's just my own personal like thing. But I'm like, there's so many people in the world to think like your man or your woman shouldn't be friends with anybody outside of like their same sex. Like, I feel like that. I'm like, that's so odd to me. But that's me though. And
there are communities of people, you know, that just believe that just don't exist.
It don't work.
All.
But I guess.
Like there's no such thing as guys being, you know, just friends with women or vice versa. Like there's people that believe that, which is, you know, teach his own.
Teach his own. But yeah, they just need to really have a real conversation and not go to the internet about it, in my opinion, because
internet gonna burn you.
It just opens,
and all you gonna see is hurt feelings.
Too much, yeah. Because who cares?
All type of crap.
Who cares what they think on the internet? Like,
when they ain't in your relationship,
what you and your person think matters.
And then what happened? The bad thing about that is it really attacks your insecurities because all you gonna do. You're going to connect with the stuff that you already closely feel anyway. Yeah. That's really all you're going to do. Like, you're going to find the people who are the far freaking extreme of whatever you're currently feeling, and it's just going to magnify that. That's all it's going to do. Like, so it's like you're not even looking for an unbiased opinion, truth be told. Because if you're sitting there, it's just you in your head. All you have is you and your own thoughts and your own feelings, and you're going to unconsciously be swayed toward whatever reinforced feeling you already have. What is that? That confirmation bias? That's all it is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the comments was full of stories of other women saying their experience, and then like it's just makes
because it didn't work out for 1,000 of them.
Yeah,
it worked out for 10,000, but you only see the 1,000. You know what I mean? But like, and you can't overlook all of that stuff. Yeah. So it just makes your insecurity worse. Which is why it's never a good choice. Yeah. But like you said, man, it really just goes back to like that self-work and having those open conversations and seeing where you might need to grow individually, where you might need to grow together. So that way it cannot be a problem going forward if you care to do that work. Right. But that even in that, I still don't see that being means for arguing or belittling or whatever the case may be.
Never that. I don't think there's ever... room for that.
Absolutely. But you see where we at with it. Yeah. Oh yeah, I hope y'all got something out of that, man.
It was kind of ranting a little bit.
A little bit. But yeah, man, I think it's important that people take the time to really get clear on what their own standards are, and realizing, even if you think you got some, your life is going to show you what your standards really are. Not what you think they are.
Yeah.
The results you have in your life show your real standards, not the ones you make believe, not the ones you write down on your affirmations in your notebook and on your walls and mirrors. The quality of your relationships, the quality of your marriage, all of that stuff is a reflection of the true standards, not the made up ones. So it's like getting clear on what those things are, building them up where they need to be, establishing them where there are none, and just being willing to do that work on an individual and on a collective standpoint.
Absolutely.
So anyway, hope y'all got some game out of that, man. Y'all see where we at with it and some of the things that we've done. And as always, family, it's always a pleasure to be able to spend this time with you guys, especially my favorite person in the world. So until next time, family, my name is John Tron. This is my beautiful queen,
Adoria.
We are one dope couple. And until next time, peace and love.